Okay, so this is working now. I'm just trying to figure out how to record this with OBS in the right way, but I think this should work. All right, so today I would just like to have a quick look at this side project that I'm working on here. It is, or it will be a game in the future, but right now it's more like an experiment in terms of what it's needed in order to have such game or to be able to implement such game. This is heavily inspired by puzzle-like games like Sokoban or this kind of category of games. And for those who would like to know, I am using Java here, so I'm using libgdx um, as the base library here for this development, and on top of it, I am adding what I think it's necessary or the customizations that I want to have on this. I'm calling engine, but it's not a proper engine. It's more like an extension of libgdx to have the features and that I would need to develop the game that I have in mind, and that's what this is about. So it's more like an experiment, and I would just like to show you a little bit and share with you a little bit the progress so far and how this is looking like. And yeah, so let's have a look. This is then the screen here, the main screen. It is possible to change settings if you want to go full screen or if you want to change resolutions, etc. So that's all possible right now. And there's also a dialogue system in place, which I will show later on. Very bare bones dialogue system. And here you would be able also to change the font size of the subtitles basically. And here just go back to the main menu. So this was supposed to be the main menu of the game. And in terms of the options here, in terms of tools or paths you can follow from this menu here, you can obviously hit play and start playing the game. But in debug mode, what I can also do right now is to have an editor. I also created an editor, or I am in the process of creating this editor so that I can easily design the levels inside the tool and play them immediately, etc. So I think this is, at least for me or for what I want, a lot easier than just going outside and working with tools like Tiled or any other external tool where I would design the levels and then I will import them and then run them, etc. So I think this is a more fluid approach to have a quicker feedback on the changes that I will be doing on the level designs. Then there is also a debug option which opens a debug panel we will show in a minute, and this is more to change global settings on the engine or that it's running the game, and still very experimental as I said, but it is there for me to change, to tweak a few things, to learn what works and what doesn't, etc. And then of course leaving everything, leaving the game, quitting the program. So let's have a look at play. So when you hit play, you go to this graph here, which has a few nodes. Those are supposed to be the levels in a world. So imagine that there will be a few levels, and those levels, they will be connected through those nodes. And right now there's no order or sequence or anything. I just created this still very early idea of having those levels connected into some kind of world situation. So let's play this one here, which is the default level. So this is how it looks like right now. Um, in terms of view, it is this slightly angled field of view. It's a top perspective, but it's angled down a little bit, so the camera is pointed a little bit down. I think it's on a 22 degrees at the moment, and we can see here the board. So that's the board, and this is the playable area, let's say, and then outside here it's more like a supporting environment thing, so it's not really a place where the player can actually play. You have the player here, and you can do like the regular movement through the grid. The grid it has cells. It's basically tiles. Each cell then can have entities on top of those cells. The cells can be of certain types as well, etc. So here the player then can move through them to the cells. Some cells, they have this kind of recess, so the player will also fall into those recesses when they are present. You can pull and push things as well, so if you would push something into the recess, that entity will also sink a little bit, or it will fit into the recess as well. So here I'm just showing the pushing, but you can also pull. So you can also pull things if you want. There is a jumping also implemented, but I'm not entirely sure if that will be necessary for the puzzle game. But anyways, I implemented that because I wanted to implement, but I'm not sure if that will be actually a thing where the player will be actually jumping on top of entities and stuff. There is, of course, as you can see, like some collision happening as well. So the player is colliding with solid structures, so that's in place. What I'm also trying to achieve, it's more like a 3D looking like game. So that's the idea here. So I'm trying to create this in a way where I can have models and then place those models as entities, or render those models into the entities. There is also a light system implemented. You can see shadows here, right? So I'll show you in a minute how this looks like more in details. But there is a skybox implemented with two types of skies, clear skies and a more cloudy sky, or an overcast sky. Then we have the natural light, so the ambient light, which is coming from the sun. It's more like a diffusing light affecting the whole scene, and depending on the parameters of the sun, the configuration of the sun, the light will also change according to the time of the day. So yeah, there's also like water, as you can see. I added some basic water simulation already to the game. So the water has a few layers. It's possible to simulate depth, right? So you have, let's say, a seabed, and then you have water on top of it, and then you have this column of water in between, and then you have all the light effects that are needed to simulate proper light entering water, diffraction and all of that. So that's also in place. And I can also tweak a few things here for you to see a few different parameters and techniques that I am experimenting as well. So yeah, so let's see. There's also like some shaders in place. You can see here those beams. I have a laser beam and a plasma beam, which is this one here. What you see here, it's more like a hint that this entity is actually able to emit a beam, and in which direction that beam will be emitted. So it's already giving me some extra features for gameplay and to creating the puzzles as well. So the beams, they can be blocked by solid bodies, like solid entities, like a rock or a box, etc. And certain entities, they can, or all entities like that are solid, they will block the beam, but certain entities, they can also react when they are beamed, which is the case of those gemstones. So this one here will be activated, and it will actually trigger then the plasma beam only when it is hit by the laser beam. Right? And those beams, they are done through shaders, and also this glowing effect on the gemstone, it's also done via some shaders as well, which is something that I'm also learning more and experimenting with. Okay, then we also have this portal here, so I can also move this portal around. You can see here that this gemstone is emitting this laser beam, and the beam is hitting the portal, but nothing is happening, right? So let me just put the portal in the right place. By the right place, I mean that I also wired some sort of like goal system into the engine, where you can define certain goals, and those goals are defined in terms of certain entities reaching certain cells, or certain events happening on certain cells as well. So in this case, you can see that the portal has a goal attached, and then when it's moved to the right place, it activates. So this effect, this swirl effect that it's happening in the middle there, it's also another shader that is, or I called it an aperture shader, and I did it in a way that it's an effect that can be attached to entities that have a certain void, and then the shader will actually adapt. And there, of course, not automatically, there will be some coding necessary, but this aperture, it's possible to be adapted to different types of voids in the models. So this way I could have different types of portals with different shapes and use the same aperture effect, for instance. And then in this case of the portal, you can see that it has this inactive state for the aperture shader. And then when I move the stone here, move the gemstone, which will then cast the plasma beam that will hit the portal, then the shader becomes turns into an active state, and then it kind of gives this feeling that now this portal is energized and I can actually go through it. So that's the idea here, or at least part of the idea of how this could potentially be useful in a puzzle style game. right, so let's have a look at the editor now. So we can have the editor, as I mentioned before. So here I can select the cells, and I can see here on the inspector some properties of the cell. This is again very early stage, so don't worry about being pretty. So that's not the purpose. I'm still experimenting and trying to figure out things and learning things. So don't judge or don't be worried about that. But the main idea is I can select those cells, right? Any of them. Or I can also select entities and see the entities properties here. So if I want, and I can also interact with the entities. Let's say I want to, I don't know, I want to rotate this entity here, so I can do it, right? So I can roll it, and I can do change their, I can do transformations here, right? So yaw, pitch, and rolling, basically. And I can also do a few other things, like I can also move this entity here on the grid. Yeah, and that's basically it for now. So I can do those things with these entities. What else I can do here is, let's say I want to make, you can see this is the cell, it's like has a recess, right? So this has a 1/4 recess, but I could just put it at 2/4 away, or a full tile height or full cell height recess here, or no recess at all. So I can do that. Yeah, and then I can also set the tiles here. I'm calling this terrain right now, for the lack of a better terminology. I don't think this will be the most appropriate here, or I'm not entirely sure, but this is where I'm calling right now. I can change the tiles as I want to be of different types, right? So this is something I can do right now. I can also, yeah, this is the select tool as I mentioned before, but I can also delete or erase the tiles, right? So if I want to erase this one and just create a void, I can also do it. What else? Oh yeah, so the board here, it's sitting on top of this this platform here, right? So if I zoom out a little bit, let me just go here, and maybe let me see how I can do that. Oh, I think I cannot do that right now, but what I can also do here is to, here, yeah, I can change the field of view. So you can see that there's some kind of sandbox here, right, where the actual board is sitting on top of it. So I can change the field of view. So there's the skybox and the sun, which I can change the time of the day, and this will change the light conditions on the scene. So you can see the shadows and everything on the elements, and that's conditioned to the time of the day of the, and then consequently the position of the sun or the moon, right? So this is then cycling through day and night. I don't know, maybe there will be later like time and day cycles, and then this could be useful to change the scene and the conditions there. Yeah, as I mentioned before, I can switch to overcast and clear skies at the moment. So that's something I can do. Let's just go back to around 22, 23. Right, so I can also change that and see that reflected here in on the scene, which is also useful. I can save all that and play. So imagine that I go to the editor. I want to paint this. I want to see how this looks if this was grass. I can just press P and then just immediately play and see and experiment with changes on the design. And if I'm happy with that, then I can save that, and that will be saved into the data structure that holds the data for the level. So this is something that I also can do here in the editor. What else? Yeah, entities. I can select the entities here from the entity catalog. There's an entity catalog, and I can select an entity and just pull or place this entity here on the grid. That it's also something that can be done right now. Right now you can see that there are a few mixed things here, like I have an NPC or I have like spotlights and point lights also here. I'm not entirely sure if they are working. I think they don't, to be honest. NPCs, they work. I could place an NPC here and I can even define dialogue for those NPCs. I will show you in a minute an example. So that's something I could also do it here. Of course, still a lot to do and a lot to improve, but it shows already what's possible and what's not. So I think this is really interesting. I also created this, like if I select, just go here and select a tile, and then something I can do as well is just to raise this tile, right? Just to increase the height. Say if I want to create a column here or a wall, I can do that. So that's also possible. And I'll just leave those like that. Again, as I mentioned before, I can also create recesses. And I can scroll through the different levels that I have. So I'm just experimenting with a few things here. Let's say this one here, it's interesting because this is a recent improvement that I did, and the idea is that I can have like different islands and not a single board. Until a couple of days ago, I could only have one board on the game, but right now I can have different boards, and this could also be nice to create like some dynamics in the game, right? So the gameplay would actually happen in different boards, which might be isolated from each other initially, and then you have to do something to get to the other side or to the other board to finish the level. Like pushing logs or pushing crates and creating breeds, etc. So this could also be things that are possible in a game, and it could be part of the puzzle game. And for that reason, I created this this feature here where it is possible now in one level, which I call like the level world, to have multiple boards. And then each board can also be independently rendered. Each board has its own mesh, etc. And the level world has the definition of the boards and everything that it's connected to that. So that is also possible. Now let me show you something about the water here, because that's a really interesting. Oh yeah, so this is the dialogue system that I have here. You can see who is or which entity is speaking, and they have some kind of that dialogue going on at the moment. You can also go through the dialogue quicker by pressing spacebar. Yeah, so what I wanted to show you here a little bit is the idea of the water simulation. Yeah, so this is what I wanted to show you a little bit. So let me open the debug panel. So this is the debug panel, and again, this is where I can change and tweak some parameters, some global parameters, etc., just to understand and to experiment and to learn more about all those things. One thing that I can change here, it's the water system. So right now I have some particles going on. So you can see the particles, right? When I switch them off and when I switch them on. Actually, I'm just remove this. So I'm not rendering the water anymore. So you are just seeing the seabed. And here I want to show you something. I think this is more visible here through the shadow. You can see that the seabed, it's not plain. So it has a sign shaped format, right? And I can change that to be based on a height map if I want, which goes more like towards like terrain simulation stuff, or to be flat, or to use a sign approach. I like so far the sign. I think it's working okay, and also the heat map works okay as well. Then let me bring back the water. So something that I did recently as well was the idea of using a ADU and DV map for the water. So this way I can have this more natural looking water, right? Like this or like this, right? So this would be, maybe I have a little bit more wind, maybe I have a little bit less wind. I don't have a wind simulation system here still in place, so that's baked on the implementation of those effects here. And the particle system, it's something I can also experiment with different types. It can be random, it can be orbiting, or can be mixed. I also have this planar reflection, so it depends on the sun, right? So let me see if I can change here. So the reflections will also change depending on the time of the day. So that's also a thing. And this is what those planar reflections do. They create a more real like water effect. If I switch them on, then I would just have this green here, which is also fine. I think you can also, or a player could also understand that this is water, and this will become a little bit more realistic, reflecting what's in the seabed, for instance, or what's close to the water, like the player. I can show you this here. There are some reflections in the water also going on. I think this is not quite right, but you can see the player reflection there, right? So that's also something that I think should be there, and I think it will be natural when I get close here that I have the reflection there. So right now it's kind of not working, but I think you get the idea. Yeah, what else? I think that's basically what I have so far, and this is going into the direction that I want. So I think if you think this as the base for a puzzle game, I think it's quite interesting already, right? So even here on this demo, it is already kind of a mini game already, where you have to again move the portal there to the right position. You don't know yet where the position is, so this is something I was thinking about, to add some indicators on the tiles where the positions will be. You just not know exactly which entity should be on which tile, and that's part of the figuring out of the puzzle. But this is already something interesting and nice to play. And now I need to think more about making things a little bit more natural. One example is here, right? So when you remove the crate from the recess, or when you put it on, so trying to make those more natural and more realistic. Player movement, also it's something that I want to improve and think about a little bit more. Um, this model here is just a placeholder. I don't know exactly which model will be in the game, but also this idea of player movement, it's really interesting to think and to work with. Also, something interesting would be to oh yeah, something I haven't shown, like you can do of course like those things, right? So you can see this, you can see this, you can see the collision bound of the player, etc. Can show like some stats here, camera angle, where the player is, etc. So those kind of helper panels and information to help develop the thing. But anyway, what I was telling is that it is really a lot of details that has to be taken into account. For instance, I was mentioning this here, but I was also thinking about like how friction works in real life, right? So it wouldn't be, or it would be harder to move an entity with a higher mass than it will be to move an entity with less mass, which is something that it's already here. So if we check here an entity, I cannot actually change, or this is not exposed, but entities they have mass and or solid bodies. They have a mass and density as well. So if I push this crate here, which right now does not have any mass, it will just float like styrofoam or would float in water, right? But if I push a rock like this, a boulder, then it sinks. So you can also take it off there. So those kind of things, they need to be very realistic, right? So, or close to real, and that includes like taking into account how hard it is to move a boulder in comparison with a crate, or if a small crate that might not be even full. So all those kind of things needs to be taken into account and added to make the experience of playing the game nicer. But that's only one part of the equation, right? Then there's the whole other story, which is the actual game. What will this game be about, or what it could be about? How can it be different from all other games out there, or what makes it fun to play at least? Because there are a lot of like those puzzle games out there. Some of them, for instance, will play with the idea of water, right? So the main point of the game is to control water flow. So the whole or the whole story, or the puzzles, they are designed in a way for you to control the flow of water, or control how water interacts with other elements in order to solve the puzzles. So let's say they have a theme. Some others are more complex and involve various themes. Some others are very simple in terms of their story, right? So I think this is also an equally difficult thing to do, but also equally fun. So I think that's part of the fun of creating this projects, right? So that you have to go through those problems and questions, and that you have to figure out the solutions for them. So I think that's the fun of doing that and investing your time, your free time, um, on those things. So yeah, so this is what I would like to show today and share with you. Um, I hope this was fun, and if you want to watch the next updates, I will post them sometime in the future. I don't promise any regularity right now because that's not my main job or my full priority right now, but it's something that I would like to develop further and share a little bit of the journey with all of you. Yeah, I think that's it for today. So this is what I like to show, and I wish everyone a very nice day or night, depending on which time of the day you are watching this. And I hope to see you again in the next update about this project. Thank you very much, and I will see you then next time. Bye bye.